All right. Hey guys, Troy and Tristan here, back for another podcast. Really, really excited to be back. A little bit, I don't want to say a downtime in the NBA, but maybe not as much excitement going on right now, but still some cool stuff happening. Still been watching the games. Anything stand out to you lately, Tristan?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say obviously a bunch of good stuff has been going on. I think teams are kind of settling into who they are. Um, a lot of the bad teams that were kind of, at the top of the standings in the beginning of, settled into the lower half of their conference. But one game that I watched that was kind of interesting because it has like hobby ramifications was the Luka Trey game last night. Mavs ended up edging out, barely beat the Hawks last night. Trey had like 25 and 15, I think. John Collins played well. Luka played well. Porzingis played okay, but I think it's pretty exciting seeing those two guys play. I think, there's a lot of young collectors that are getting into it that, are maybe they spent $6,000 on a Luka Silver 10 and, watching Luka and having their money tied up is definitely promising going forward. Obviously, Luka, started out the year shooting like 17% from three. They started out slow, and I think now they're still in the back of the Western Conference, but he's starting to play, close to MVP form, and the Mavericks team I think is at least going to be frisky, right? They're definitely not an easy out, and I sure wouldn't want to play them in the playoffs. So we'll see if they get there. Right now they're 11th, they're 12 and 14, but two interesting teams, and two of the best young players and most hyped card guys. How do you feel about
Yeah, I
those
mean, I
guys?
was about to say that's interesting about Luka because he's just a tough one for me. I think, you know what I mean? I believe in him so much as a player, but I do not think the Mavs are very good at all. I think most people feel kind of the same way. But also at the same time, I keep hearing these little murmurs. The birds are chirping that Luka is not working hard enough and he's complaining to the refs too much and all these kind of things. And I think there's potentially a kernel of truth to that. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to kind of get inside the brains of these guys, but people saying he showed up maybe not in the best shape he could be. That's what it appears to be to me. And if we're gonna hold Luka at this like absurd level, you have to have that like killer mentality. Like I'm gonna do everything I can to get the leg up. So that was just a little concerning to me. So like I believe in Luka so much, but also at the same time, it's like now it's the shininess has worn off a little bit, and we're looking for like the little bits to criticize.
Isn't it funny how quickly people turn? I mean, he was like the
Yeah,
NBA darling. I mean, Zion is like another perfect example. Like, he's actually quietly having a really good year. He's shooting like 60%
really
from the
good.
floor, 24 points a game. Or him and Ingram, I still don't know about the fit going forward, but I think they're both, playing well in their own right. But Zion and Luka are guys that have national treasures that have sold for six figures. So we're talking over $100,000, which, to put it in perspective, we always talk about comparing it to other players, but you have like Curry stuff has now eclipsed that, but you have other guys that are older that, Chris Paul. Obviously, I think Luka is going to be way better than Chris Paul. He's already done more at his age. Obviously, it's not close. It's just, it goes to show you how much where the expectations were with Zion and Luka, and all it takes is a little bit of sputtering for, prices to come back down to earth. And that's like the one, me and you always talk about really liking the player, but not necessarily liking the price point. So I think, Luka, when you have a silver 10 and there's over 1,000 of them and they're ending at 14,000, it's tough to buy, especially when we saw that card when it was 3,000, 2,000. So it's hard for us to balance all the new money that's coming to the market because, I think the market as a whole has been going up and will continue to go up, but you definitely can find times to buy and there's definitely times to steer clear. So I think those two guys have leveled out. And to your point, and when you have those high expectations, you have to perform every night.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what I was gonna say. Like the tough thing with Luka and Zion is they're playing so well, but those were kind of our expectations of them. You know what I mean? I always say it's gonna take you in the pockets of like momentum. I think you can make it like we saw in the bubble at the beginning of the season. Prices are just gonna go up in general, but outside of that, they have to far exceed what's expected of their individual performance, or their team really has to have success. At least that's what I've seen. So,
Yeah.
People asking me about this player and this player, I always say, like, have a plan. Like, what do you think is going to get people excited about it? And it's like, it sounds crazy to say, but like 25 and 10 from Zion it doesn't get people that excited because of, you know, where the Pelicans are at right now and also where his prices are at.
100%. And that's what it boils down to. And like someone like Luka, 21 years old, but was the odds-on favorite to win MVP before the year. So like ahead of LeBron and Steph and Giannis and all these other guys that, you know, you typically shoe in for, you know, top 5 MVP candidates. He was number 1. So granted, I think some of that was warranted, but I think, you know, the people that were saying the Mavericks are going to be a top 3 seed, top 2 seed, you know, real contenders, I think they need to pump the brakes on that. And Porzingis, you know, he's still the
Doesn't
injury
look
concerns
great out there.
No, he doesn't. And what's frustrating, and I don't mean to like watching him play and not being able to take advantage of like a 6'4" guy guarding him is super frustrating. He just shoots this, and his 3-point shot's great. His rim protection's good, but doesn't get easy shots. I feel like I can't remember the last time he worked and got easy, you know, 5 easy buckets in a game. I feel like he has a lot of shots created for him, and then the shots that he does create are just like turnaround jumpers, which, you know, it is what it is. He's coming off an injury, so we have to be, you know, we can't be too critical of him.
Did you hesitate to say that because you felt like you were criticizing me as well as a big man who shoots threes and doesn't get easy buckets?
Yeah,
there's some personal
I'm glad you
animosity
picked up
there.
on that. I was poking you for sure.
But all jokes aside, I mean, like I said, all these guys have their flaws, but I think we would both agree to kind of wrap up the Luka thing is like it's always a risk with any young guy, but I'm like, I would take the risk with Luka. You know what I mean? Like I'll roll the dice with him. But that actually moves, you know, we're talking to modern. I think we talked not to death, but we talked a lot about vintage and the GOATs last time, and it's continued. LeBron Topps base, PSA 9, $3K. Yeah. I'm sure you remember the time when that was what, a $100 card?
Yeah, that card
too long ago.
Nuts. And then like his actual base, like Topps, you know, like the one that he has a refractor version was, I remember was ending at like 1,100, 900 a couple years ago. Now that's like 40K. So it goes to, like the PSA premium has grown because like it used to be PSA and BGS 9.5 were closer, and that gap has widened. And there's no reason for it not to. I know there's a lot of people that think that BGS 9.5s are going to catch up, and there's no reason to think that. Like I think the gap continues to widen for a reason. And I know that from a grading standpoint, PSA is quicker and usually, you know, better as a service as a whole. So I'm not saying that I'm impartial, but yeah, to see a card that was at 1,000 2 years ago that's now at 40 or 50 just puts in perspective what we're looking at as far as the market expanding. And, you know, like we said, we had companies that are raising tens of millions of dollars, which I love. It's awesome. It's vindicating that, you know, we're not just spending our time here doing something stupid. There's definitely there's some cultural significance now, which is cool. Don't you think?
Yeah, 100%. I just had a quick aside on BGS. I'm not sure if you saw, you're not a huge, I'm more of the grader of the two of us. You're more just buying the graded cards. BGS doubled their prices and their turnaround times are already potentially, I've heard in certain cases, like double what PSAs are. So I guess there's probably not much discussion on that, but for me, it's like PSA already has that premium. The only thing you can compete on is turnaround times and price, and you're not able to do it. And once again, I'm not there. I don't know. I'm sure there's plenty of they're trying to get through the backlog, and there's something to be said for what they're trying to do. But I don't know. I just saw that and I was like, man, what are you doing?
Yeah, I'd say the last thing I'll say on that is like I've heard you know multiple people come out and say that PSA, as the market has grown, to get a 10, it's more and more rare. And I actually think that's really strong. I think anytime you set a precedent and, you know, make it difficult that only the top nicest cards in the best condition are getting 10s, that's going to continue to keep the 10s rare and then keep the prices high, which I think, you know, maybe I don't know the percentage. Like I can't tell you for a fact that there's cards that will get a 9.5 that wouldn't get a 10, but I know it's hard to cross 9.5s to 10s, and frankly, it should be. So that's kind of, you know, neither of us are experts, but I think it's definitely interesting to see that gap widen, especially on high end stuff.
Actually, one other thing, just while you mentioned that's actually a great point about how hard it is to get 10s with PSA right now. I think that population control is a real thing. If you'll allow me to be a conspiracy theorist for a second, because people were sending in the messy mega cracks that we actually have. A bunch of people have been kind of like ripping those packs and boxes and sending them fresh to PSA And I
Yeah.
saw a guy and he got all sixes. I was like, sixes, man. I was like, you can't tell me if you sent those in a year ago that you're getting a six. I was like, there's just no way. Pack fresh,
Yeah.
right? I know
Yeah.
they're older cards. I'm sure there's some flaws, but and then also I had another guy. He bought a LeBron Tops, the paper one, a 9.5 SGC. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, man, looks perfect to me. But I was like, there's no way you get a 10. Even if it deserves a 10, I just don't see
Yeah.
them giving it to you.
Yeah.
And if you don't get a 9, you know what I mean? There's a scenario where they give you an 8 on that just because that's how the pop control, especially
And
with those
8.
iconic cards, especially like I've seen like real studies on like the Luca Prism and stuff. They grade
Yeah.
it differently. They 100%
Yeah,
do.
100%. And like, frankly, I feel like some of those sets, not that they should be graded different. I feel like there should be like as objective as possible. But, sometimes people trim cards and then send them in 5 years later. I think, keeping the 10 somewhat rare, at least, like I said, at least keeps the value high and keeps the 10s that do exist. They have significant value. The one other thing I would talk about, KD being out is kind of a weird thing. There's some outcry that Adam Silver is trying to keep him from getting an MVP, and the top three in the East are really interesting. If you want to include the Celtics too, but I'd say the Sixers, the Bucks, and the Nets. I can't tell you who I think's coming out the East, but I know Giannis just put up a 47-point game against the Suns, but failed to close them out. He had a game-winning shot attempt that hit the side of the rim. He's always going to have these questions. It kind of reminds me of like a young LeBron. Before LeBron won a title, he was getting a ton of slander, and you know this for a fact, especially when he went to Miami and lost. He was getting death threats, and he was getting people up, talking heads on ESPN saying he was never going to win anything. And I'm not saying Giannis is the caliber player that LeBron is, but I do, he's still 25, 26, one of the best young players, 2-time MVP. I still think he has that upside. I don't know if it's going to happen this year, and I don't know if Bud is the coach for them, but I really like Giannis going forward, and I think that he has a chance, just like Durant with the Nets and Embiid with the Sixers, to make some noise. What do you think about that East?
Well, I mean, that's actually, if you'll allow me to, that's a perfect transition because I don't think we've even talked about this, but I just recently bought a Giannis and a Kyrie rookie prism. So that kind of, we want to talk about like the opportunity, and I guess we can kind of pair this if you want to keep talking about the East or whoever. I just feel like there's a ton of opportunity with Modern right now. So we talked about, the benefits and why investing in the GOATs is good. But like I said, I think there's a lot of opportunity right now because people are acting like, oh, everyone's selling out of Modern and all the money's going to LeBron James Topps Chrome. It's like, no, I don't think so. I mean, there's some people who have consolidated, but it's not like, oh, everyone owns a 40K LeBron card now and they're not going to buy Modern anymore. I think there's a lot of people. I think it's mostly just people feeling like dumb and not buying Modern anymore. But
Yeah,
that money is still going to stay. A lot of it is staying in the Modern world. So
100%.
that's what like you were saying, Giannis, I think that's a good team. I think we're forgetting. And also the Giannis thing too, like I've heard it on podcasts. I think it was Bill Simmons or someone. It's like, oh yeah, he just can't win MVP again. Like we all pretty much collectively agreed to ignore Giannis this year. And I
Yeah.
think that's kind of what we're seeing with his card prices too.
Yeah, which
So
I'm grateful. If he doesn't want to get any media attention and his prices want to drop 30% when the whole market's doubled, I'm cool with that. I stocked up on Giannis before the year, and that's not to, bring attention to myself. I just think, like we're saying, there, of course, the Bradys and the LeBrons of the world, they are real. They set the market. You see Brady double, and then the trickle down effect. All these other young up and comers, slowly their prices move, to reflect what percentage they should be of like a Brady or a LeBron. But I think Giannis has a real chance. Another player like Kawhi. I know those are the two guys I was pretty big on before the year.
Yep.
They both look solid. Like they're both top three in each of the conferences, and they're both playing at MVP level. But those are kind of like gap years. It's not exactly Modern, but obviously it's not like the vintage stuff. But it's the populations for Prism stuff is super low, like absurd. Like base 10s are more rare in Kawhi's year than silver 10s are now. So that puts it in perspective. And, this is a supply and demand market, just like, many others. So I think that's definitely something you want to think about. And when I saw like the Kawhi Prism PSA 10, I'm using it as an example. Obviously his nicer stuff is the better stuff to buy, but like the Kawhi base PSA 10s went from 6K dropped all the way down to 1,800, 2,000. Now they're, back up to 3,000, but that's half of what it was last year, and the whole market's doubled. So you do the math. There's still upside there, especially if they can get to the conference finals.
Yeah, that's actually, I bought I bought Giannis base prism, Kyrie base prism. I got an Anthony Davis base prism as well, the rookie. And I was thinking, I was like, am I dumb? Like, everyone keeps saying base is dead. No one wants this anymore. And I was thinking about it more and more, and I was like, I don't think I am. It's what you said. The pop on that stuff is crazy low. I think when people talk about like base dying and like the hype and all this stuff, like I saw someone sell, I think it was a DeAndre Hunter silver prism PSA 10 for $500. And for me, I was like, even though that's not base, that seems like the garbage to me, and not the Giannis base prism for 1,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like the fact that even someone, I mean, John Morant's probably not the best example because I actually think he's good and will have some longevity, but anything John Morant with the 10 on it is like $200, $300 and up, basically $300 and up.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like that stuff is the stuff I'm worried about. And I'm not so much worried about the modern of like an Anthony Davis prism. I'm not worried about. Then I'm curious how you feel about that.
Yeah, I agree. I just think from a population standpoint, obviously a 10,000 of one thing, or 2,000 10s as a whole is not that high of a number. But when it's 2,000 compared to 200, and it's not 1/10 of the price, you need to think long and hard about it, especially in 5 years. Are we going to be talking about Ja? I think we will be talking about Ja, but are we going to be talking about SGA? Maybe. De'Aaron Fox? Maybe. We might not be. So there's a reason why a lot of these young guys, there is, boom or bust potential with them. But that's kind of the fun in the hobby. And that's where, I have fun with it. I definitely take swings on guys. But, I continue to buy, the great players as well.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think it's all just bets at the end of the day. I mean, I don't think we've talked about this, and I'm not sure how much of an opinion you'll end up having on this because you don't deal with this world, but I just bought a ton of garbage, and I don't really know how to say it besides that, but I got Dante DiVincenzo, Kyle Kuzma, Eric Pascal, all these guys on Star Stock, right? Just basically for fun. But it's like, I think the overreaction is so strong right now that even guys like that will see a little bit. You know what I mean? I was like, you're telling me the Lakers go on a run, Kuzma's not going to go up to at least a little price. So I think there's opportunity with everything right now.
Yeah, especially when it's, cut in a quarter of where it was when he was playing well. So I'm with you on that. I think it's all about finding. I mean, it's buy low, sell high. It's like the age-old cop-out answer, but that's kind of, that's where you could find money-making opportunities.
Yeah, zig when others zag too. That's the other thing too. It's like, I think if you just, I don't know, this is bad advice and like phrasing it this way, but just think for yourself. Like if you feel like, if you do the research and really think about it and it's a good deal, then you should just go for it. That's how I feel.
100%.
Yep. Transitioning a little bit, I also want to talk about getting a little ahead of ourselves right now, but the Prism for this year's rookie class is coming out, and I don't know, we talked about it a little bit, but man, I have to take another minute to talk about LaMelo. What he's been doing has been insane. He just keeps proving people wrong. Yeah,
I just think the fact that he's 6'8" or 6'7", whatever you want to call him, and as creative as he is, he's like one of the the reason why he reminds me kind of like a European player is because you see a lot of like the Colin Sextons or Donovan Mitchells, players that grew up in the U.S. don't really have the same level of creativity. I mean, Trae Young, I guess he does, but the Lucas and LaMelos, these guys that play with so much freedom, and their whole life they've been doing these moves, and some of them are off paced and seem like they're slow, but they're actually covering a lot of space, and they really can dictate what defenders do. So I think LaMelo is special to be 19 years old. I think going into the draft, a lot of people said that his passing was like the number one skill in the draft, period. Regardless of any other player, that was like the number one asset in the draft as a whole. And I think the passing is great, but he's rebounding, and he's kind of, I think he's capable of commanding a really high powered offense, and that's him at 19. So I think him at 24 could be scary if he puts it together.
100%. And actually, we're going to do a shorter one today, but I kind of want to wrap up with a final question. And I'm kind of putting you on the spot here. So I apologize for not preparing you
You're
for this,
okay.
but I was talking to our friend Darius before, and the high end stuff has been on fire, right? But my understanding is neither of you guys have actually sold very much. And I keep
Yeah.
getting a bunch of messages. So like we don't have any questions today, right? So I was like, what's the question I keep getting is, hey man, should I sell? Should I sell? Should I sell? Whether it's soccer, which is on fire, or basketball. Where do
Yeah.
you stand on that? Why have you taken that personal approach?
Well, to be honest with you, like me personally, it's different for everyone, but I've sold off, probably $150,000 worth of stuff in the last 12 months, and that's for my own reasons. I had another good investment opportunity, and I jumped on it. And since then, the collection as a whole has gone nuts. You've seen it. The market as a whole has gone nuts. Um, you know, I'm not trying to put myself on or anything, but I was offered like $200,000 for one single
Yeah, I
card,
know. That's why I'm
and like
asking, and you didn't do it.
that, yeah, and now like I've talked to people that are close to me that were shocked, and it seems like a crazy number. It's like artwork or something. It's nuts. It doesn't make any sense. Um, but I just know I've seen it before. It happens over and over again. Especially when we're talking about like the exquisites and national treasures, you're not going to touch it again. That's just like a fact. So if let's say I sold this card for 200, then I wanted to buy that player back, and I wanted to buy a lesser card, I'm gonna have to pay a pretty penny because his stuff is really hot and he has a chance for a ring. So I think where I stand on selling is, everyone, if you need the money, obviously you can sell. And if we're talking to people and you're talking about star stock and you're flipping, I think it's good to have stuff in motion. When you have money in motion, that's when you can really capitalize and continue to make money and build up your portfolio. But I think when you're talking about Darius and these other big fish, they don't need the money. So if you're comfortable, you don't need the money. Giving up cards that you're not going to touch again, I don't think is a good idea. And I've done it before. So I could give you, easily a 5-card list right now off the top. I had a Tatum National Treasures, a LeBron Refractor PSA 10, 5 Durant Refractor PSA 10s. Like I have all those cards. I've had the regret of moving too early. So I think once you feel that for yourself, I'm sure you felt it, and you're gonna, hopefully you don't feel it because you've seen us do it, and you're not gonna make the same mistake. So I don't think this market is a bubble. That's kind of what I would lead with. Is I don't think the market's a bubble. I think the money is sustainable. So I think depending on your needs, the high end stuff isn't going down anytime soon, and that's kind of where I stand. I try to have it where 60% of the collection maybe I hold on to, then maybe 40% is more movable. So it's nice to sell though. That's the other thing I would say. Like I'm going on a rant here, but selling is also nice because having money in the off season to buy players that you want or good opportunities is important too. Where do you stand on that? Because I'm sure your collection's gone nuts too in the last year.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about it, I think what you said makes a lot of sense to me. For me, the only stuff I would be like, no, don't sell is the stuff you're not going to see again. So like even LeBron James Topps Chrome PSA 10, you're going to see that again. You know what I mean? Like that's not, you'll get another chance, but an exquisite, like that's a name your price type card. So, to take it a little bit to the soccer world, because that's what's been doing really well for me lately. The Messi and Ronaldo 2006 World Cup cards went from $500, I think I bought it for, and they're going for like $4,000 right now. So at that point, those cards are around. They're low pop, but you can get them, and you just kind of have to take your profit because even with my LeBron, I sold the LeBron tops at 2,000 and now it's at 3,000, but I put that into the Messi mega cracks,
Yeah.
which it completely exploded.
Yeah.
So I was listening to I'm not sure if you know him, but I think he's a high-end guy, Coleman Cards, and he was talking about compound interest and just how like he gave the example of if you sell something you sell one card and you make 10% profit and you just stop.
Yeah.
And then next year sell that $110, whatever, 10% again. And you just like the number you get to after 15 years is absurd. And he was saying like, shrink that down into, we can make at least 12 transactions a year. You know what I mean? Something like that. And I don't think anyone really sells for 10% profit either. So if you keep rolling it into stuff that you believe in, I just feel like that's the way to do it. And like, bringing it back to you and Darius, yeah, you sold the Tatum National Treasures, but you can't be mad about what you've built up to.
No, and like the other thing, like you talked about, and I think Coleman Cards was probably touching on, is this market is cool. Like no other market is like it, in the sense that you can buy a card for 10 grand, and 3 weeks later that card could be $18,000. And I know stocks blow up overnight, but for these high end cards in this market, you have a huge pool of people that want to buy those cards, especially when they're watching LeBron put up 40 and 50, or they're watching Luka go off, beat the Clippers on a game winner. These are moments in time that people really appreciate, and especially sports fanatics that have money, they want to spend their money on that. Like, that's their version of stocks. So, but I guess getting back to the point is like being able to capitalize on making a profit within a month. 10% in a month is actually, if you could do that 12 times, you've doubled your money. You've more than doubled your money. You've probably almost tripled your money, considering it's compound, right? So I think it's awesome. And that's kind of, one thing that I struggle with too, because when you hold on to something, maybe you tripled your money, but it took you 2 years to get there, and you could have done better elsewhere. But, one thing I've tried to tell myself is to not get greedy. And, I'm not in it just for the money. It's starting to get fun. And I actually am starting to get attached to the cards, which, for better or for worse, I think it's making it a little more enjoyable for me. But, maybe from a money standpoint, it'd be smarter for me to, move that card or move other cards.
Yeah. Well, actually, that's something we've been busy the past week. Usually we talk about this stuff offline, excuse me, and we haven't really had the chance to. I put out a video yesterday. I'm not sure if you've seen yet. It was talking about a lot of the people with bad intentions in the hobby. I think what you just said about enjoying the hobby, and we like to make money, of course, but it's like that's not what it's all about for either of us. I can confidently say that. Like, we really enjoy this. And I was just saying, like, we had Vegas Dave burning the cards, and I honestly don't know much about him personally, but
I don't either,
there's a lot of these guys I see, and it's just I said in the video, I was like, you can watch 30 seconds of them, and it's clear how bad their intentions are, and they don't care at all about the hobby. And that's one thing I am a little worried about, especially on the content side, is we kind of get you into this world a little bit here, is like there's a lot of, like, I don't know how to say it besides like sleazy guys getting into this. And I hate to see it. So I just made a video about, like, please just let's not give these people attention anymore.
Yeah, 100%. And like Vegas Dave has millions of followers. He's got his whole thing going on. Said that sports card market's going to explode in a bad way, bottom out. But that's after he has a Derek Carr collection that probably flopped. So everyone's got their own reasons, to hate on the market. And I don't even blame people, because I know there's pessimists and there's optimists, but at the end of the day, nobody knows. I think that's where it is. But, the fact that you have people like me and you that maybe got into it for the money, I know that's part of why I got into it. And I've slowly actually grown attached to these cards, goes to show you something. Like, that's cool to me. Like, I would frame a card in my room. I think it is a cool piece, and I'm proud of it. And just because it's doubled or tripled or quadrupled doesn't always mean you need to sell and make money on it, because these are assets, and then you can hold on to them for years, if you don't need the money. So that's kind of the beauty of the hobby, especially like with, you were talking soccer, like Ronaldo and Messi. That shit's crazy. Like, we were playing FIFA in 2011, and those were the best guys. And now you play in 2021, 10 years later, they're still the best guys. So I think it's awesome. And, I'm happy that I have a rookie card. It's awesome. It's dope. And not just because of the money it's worth, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's actually a good note to end it on, is like, this is really cheesy, but I think there's some truth to it, of like, kind of like follow your heart a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, you'll know, like with that exquisite KD, it's like something in you is like, don't get rid of that. You know what I mean? And if you listen to that feeling, I think it'll serve you well, not only just for your enjoyment of the hobby, but, financially as well.
Yeah. And if it drops, so what? It drops, it's not the end of the world.
Yep. It'll be,
Troy, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. No,
I
you
was
got it,
going
man.
to say that this, I think we're both getting to a point in the hobby where we're seeing there's different layers to it. And I think the new money, like, one thing we always try to stress on this show is we don't really talk too much about prices. We talk a little bit about what we're getting into, but that's just more for a storyline, less for, telling other people to go out and buy those players. But I just would caution people to beware, because People are getting into the hobby and not necessarily knowing what to buy. And, a lot of times they just follow what someone else tells them. So not to be corny again, but you do your own research. You can make money, but there's a lot of people paying for subscription services that don't know what they're doing, and they're spending thousands of dollars. So
yeah, I was going to say, so you don't recommend for me to sign up for any of these investment courses?
No.
I don't need a personal sports card coach?
I probably would not advise it. I think your money would be better spent elsewhere.
Okay, we'll see what we can do with that. But all right, guys, that was a quick one. If you've made it to this part of the video, we always appreciate the questions. I apologize for not plugging it a little earlier, but if you have any, drop them down below. We'll be sure to mention them. And yeah, this was fun. Thanks for getting on with this, Tristan.
Troy, absolutely. I'm sweet. This new format is cool, and we've got some cool things cooking in terms of different ways we can steer the show.
Yeah,
we have a couple. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say with this real quick is the cool thing about this is we can go live. Like, you know what I mean? Like if we had just clicked a separate button, this could have been live on YouTube. So that's something we'll have to think about. I think that'd be fun to do that going forward.
100%. And we've got the mailbag and other stuff going. We might go through players and say, who do we think's to buy or who do we think's to sell? Because this stuff changes on a week-to-week basis, which is why we're here, right?
Yep, 100%. But okay, guys, we'll wrap it up. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Thanks.